And I feel like I'm standing up, but we have an intimate group, so I might just like chill on the couch and advance it that way so we can have more of a conversation. And I also want to call out Randy in the room. Randy was a judge for Minnesota Cup this last year, so he would be a great resource here in the room to have a conversation with, to understand more about what the judges are looking for. He was specifically in the high-tech division, but that experience translates to other divisions within the programs. So I'll get started here. My name is Melissa Kjolsing. I'm the director of the program. I've been with the Minnesota Cup for a little over 3 years. So this is going to be my third competition overseeing. A little bit about my background. I actually started out of college at the Mayo Business Alliance of Minnesota. So I worked with Dale Wallstrom and a team in Minneapolis doing some really cool work in emerging technologies and products or projects across Minnesota, focusing on the bioscience industry. After that stint, I went to Frederickson and Byron and did some legal marketing. The shoe didn't fit, maybe as they say. I did their sponsorship, portfolio management. Really enjoyed the people that I worked with, but I was missing that startup culture and that feel of working with some exciting new things. So I jumped over to MNCup in 2012.
Question?
Yeah.
How long has MNCup been MNCup?
Yeah, so we were started in 2005.
Okay.
So in 2005, Scott Littman and Dan Mallon, and they were just recently in the news yesterday, they sold their third or fourth company, Magnet 360, for like $50 million. Really great individuals. They had this idea of, let's give back to this community that's been really supportive of us and find ways that we can highlight and champion early entrepreneurs, because that's the most challenging stage in a company's life. So they pulled together a group of people in its first year, and they reviewed a handful of applications from across the state, and really the MNCup was born. They gave out about $30,000 in prize money in 2005, and in 2015 we gave out $327,000 in prize money. So it's grown significantly, and not just in prize money, but I think in participation and engagement from volunteers, and from sponsors and visibility. So we're based out of the Home Center for Entrepreneurship at the Carlson School of Management, and that works out really well because we are a statewide program, and so we're kind of in the center, with Moorhead, Duluth, Rochester, looking at Wilmer. I mean, there's some, corners of the state where we're targeting based on different, industries that are prominent in those regions. And yes, very statewide in focus. Like, this is open to anybody. If you're a resident of Minnesota, you can apply. The other parameters around, application is that you have to be under $1 million in annual revenue. So if you're based in Minnesota and you're under $1 million in revenue, you can apply to Minnesota Cup. The application is free. It doesn't cost anything, and it's about, I would say, 2 pages worth of information. The judging criteria is specifically looking at the opportunity of the business idea. That's weighted 50%. The next judging slot is plan, so 25% to plan, and looking at the team, your execution strategy, your timeline, things like that. And then 25% goes to progress. So are you engaging with customers? Are you figuring out what people really want? You're not just sitting in isolation, but you're really trying to engage with people outside of your own circle to make the best product possible. In addition to our startup competition, and I'll dive into that a little bit more in a few slides, but we have a startup competition that goes for about 6 months out of the year, but we also do some events and educational programming. And so once you get into the community of Minnesota Cup and you get into the know, you get on our email list and you have access to all of these other things. And again, we do free, everything is free. So free events, free educational programming, and it's targeting different things. Like our event, if you're a foodie, we're hosting a big event on February 4th in Minneapolis at the Chow Grill space. If you're a fan of craft beer, it's above Indeed Brewing. But we're having 60 food startups exhibit, sell, sample who they are, what they do, their products, And we're gonna bust the seams in this space. We're at over 500 people registered. So I think it shows that there's this really exciting demand for engagement with the startup community, and we provide a really fun way to do that. And it's very, there's a little bit of structure, and I'm a type A personality, so it's highly organized. But with innovation, with entrepreneurship, there's a lot of unknowns and excitement and enthusiasm and passion that comes with it too, so that's really fun. So yeah, come hungry if you're interested. And again, that event is free. It's like science fair for food startups, so it's almost done. The educational programming, we do have an initiative to try and increase women's participation in MNCup. Right now, it's about 1 in 3 of our applications are from women. And this isn't about a rah, women are awesome. This is about really the economic opportunity. There was a report, it was, I can't remember the publication, but it was in like Business Insider. And they talked about it, if countries instill best practices around women's participation in business, our global economy could add trillions of dollars to it. And so that's really exciting, and that's where we see an opportunity. So like any good entrepreneur, you see opportunity, you go out and go after it. So how do we do this? How do we bring together thousands of people every year from all over the state to celebrate entrepreneurship and get some really cool prizes and resources to move their business forward? And we do this through the divisions that we've established. And I have business cards here and then supplements. And in this supplement, you can see a recap of every division from this last year. One division is left out because we have one new division in 2016. That's our youth division for 18 and under. I'm not going to assume anyone here is under 18, but just so you know. The competition, I mean, these divisions that we put together, so energy, clean tech, water, if you can't read it, food, ag, beverage, general, high tech, life science, health, IT, social entrepreneurship, student and youth, allow us to pool experts and community leaders within these areas. So like Randy being at IBM and having, several years of experience, he's in our high tech category, reviewing applications and providing some really great insight into what he knows about hardware, software, I mean, kind of you name it. I'm not a high tech person, so Randy can elaborate on it. But it's really exciting because I think, within the food, ag, beverage division, it summarizes it the best. We really focus on everybody in the room being from seed to plate. So there you get like a really clear visual of the whole value chain of who's represented in the room and why they're there. But in addition to, industry experts, community leaders, we have successful entrepreneurs, and we have investors. I think that's what makes this really exciting, because this is an opportunity for companies within Minnesota, early stage companies, to start forming relationships with investors outside of their own network. So, and it works both ways, because these investors are looking for deal flow. The follow-on investment in MNCup companies is pretty significant. And I'll talk about what we call a finalist, a semi-finalist in a couple slides, but just to give you a sense of what we're talking about. Finalists, so those are the top 3 from each division each year, they've raised over $200 million in capital outside of the program for their startups, and that's since 2005. But that's a pretty significant amount of capital that's going into these startups that are just participating in MNCup. So, and a lot of those, again, those relationships are established through the competition. But we have amazing volunteers. The pool is about 350. We have over 200 judges that span these 8 divisions, and then we have 150 mentors. And the mentors are fantastic. They're the people that you'd be paying a lot of money to help advise on your business, but they're doing it for free because they're excited about helping young companies in Minnesota. And when I say, companies, we're looking at, we talk about being the breakthrough idea competition, so we're looking for big ideas, not necessarily the lifestyle businesses, but the high growth potential, the ones that are going to need some capital invested at some point, and those that are really going to create jobs in Minnesota. I mean, the judging criteria, as I said, it's the opportunity, the plan, the progress, but a lot of the conversation within the judging room, if it kind of comes down neck and neck, it's the impact on Minnesota and the jobs that it's going to create. So that's a big focus of Minnesota Cup. So the prizes for the program, exclusive events, business planning support, mentoring, visibility, access to resources. Look at this number, $400,000 for this next year. It's still a little in flux, so don't hold me to that yet because we're fundraising actively right now for our 2016 competition. But the mark is $400,000, so that's up about $75K from 2015. Division prizes, for each division winner, they get $30,000, and that division win gives them a chance to go on to compete for the grand prize of an additional $50,000. And, depending on what industry you're in, $80,000 might not seem like a lot of money because there are a lot of, very capital intensive businesses out there, like the life sciences or the energy divisions. But it's amazing, like I said, the visibility of what comes with winning the Minnesota Cup is pretty substantial. You've been vetted by multiple judges over 4 rounds, and so again, follow-on investment is very likely. The relationships that you establish are awesome. Preceptus Medical, they won Minnesota Cup in 2013, and they actually formed their relationship with Mayo Clinic through our competition. And so we had a trial based out of Mayo, and then they are now on their way and doing some really cool stuff. If you don't know what Preceptus Medical is, they actually, it's really cool. They can implant ear tubes for young children without having the child go under. It's just using local anesthetic. So it's a reduction in cost to the hospital because they're not having to go into the operating room. And it's a huge savings to the parents who don't have to watch their child go limp and recover from that pretty intense surgery. There is a competitive device on the market from Johnson & Johnson, but I think Preceptus is a superior product. So looking at the impact of MNCup and kind of giving us some credibility here. Since 2005, we've supported over 10,000 entrepreneurs, and that's at the application stage. We get a high number of people that apply to MNCup each year. And when you look at the application, I think you'll see really clearly that application is basically an extended elevator pitch. Like if you had 5 minutes in an elevator with someone, that would be your pitch, because you're talking about what's the market opportunity. You're talking about how you're going to execute and be better than the competitor, what you've done to date, why you're significant. And so that first step in the process is valuable. And at each milestone of the competition, you're going to have these tangible takeaways that you can apply to your business. So while it is a time commitment, but it is free, it's just you're investing your time, at each milestone of the competition, you're taking away things that you can use. So the application run, you basically have a one-pager if you want to look at it that way. At the second stage, there are some other things that you'll hit that I'll go over in a second. But it's a great process. Even if you are on your way and you're like, I don't know if I need the Minnesota Cup. I'm kind of doing my thing already, and I feel really good about it. I would push you to say that you are going to get as much time as you put into this back, if not more. And the connections that you make and meet, these people that really just want to see you succeed, it's pretty phenomenal. We've awarded over $1.6 million in seed money. Media impressions are significant. I mean, we do a road show ourselves. Like when the Minnesota Cup kicks off on March 21st, we're going to go around to really anybody who wants to listen and share Minnesota Cup, who we are, what we do, and why people should apply. And then looking at kind of the representation for Minnesota, this is a statewide program, and so 89% of counties are represented through this competition, and we track that each year. The demographic information that we're looking at is where you're coming from, but also race, gender. We want to start benchmarking these things so that we have a broader story to share about the kind of the face of entrepreneurship in Minnesota. So this is where I think it gets interesting, because we're getting down more into the weeds. I'm not just talking about why MNCup is great, but I'm also going to talk about, like, these are the milestones that I was talking about for each company that participates in the Minnesota Cup. So the first one is March 21st. That's when the Minnesota Cup competition will launch. That means on our homepage you will have access to an application that goes over exactly what I talked about, opportunity, plan, and progress. And it will be, this big button that just says apply here. And you'll log in, again, asking you these different questions around demographic information, and then getting into the weeds and asking you more about your business. You have approximately, I think that's like 7 weeks, 6-7 weeks to complete this application. So you can go into it, check it out, try it on, and then leave. And I highly encourage you to do the application in like a Word document so that you can tweak it, update it, and then submit it into the application, just so that if your internet shuts off or something, or I don't know, some crazy glitch happens, you have this in a file on your own computer. But again, you can go in and out of the application as you are continuing to make progress on your business. Again, adding those great things that have recently happened to your submission. We want you to do that. And then in high dramatic fashion, the application closes at 11:59 p.m. on May 6th. And yes, I am awake, and I have tried to change that, but the co-founders like the drama that comes with it, because I'm the one that stays awake that late. And so if you're online at 11:58 and something happens, just send me an email, because I will say, yeah, it's okay. We can get it in. The semifinalists are announced in June, and those are who we really focus a lot of our energy and efforts on. So this year we'll have 80 semifinalists, and that means there's 10 from each division. So when you look at, and I'll go over this a couple times so that you can remember it, we have this large pool of applications at the beginning, and it goes through its significant cut, in June. That's the judging first round is in June. This drastic cut takes this pool of several hundred down to 10 in each category, so 80 total. So 80 semifinalists are going to get kind of the a la carte menu of all of the great services, events, and things that we provide. Again, for free. They'll get paired with up to 2 mentors, and they'll be in a beeline to the next milestone of the competition. The calendar on our website will start to get populated with some of those events that happen during the semifinalist round, but I can give you some examples there. A business planning workshop, there's one on equity, there's one on financing, there's going to be one on pricing. There's a mock investor pitch event so that you can actually start to walk through with people that have a critical eye. And that's something that's really important about this too. It's incredibly rare to find objective feedback for your business when you're early, because you're usually surrounding yourself with some pretty friendly faces, or familiar faces, and they're going to say, it's great, I love what you're doing, this is so cool.
Until you go to pitch it.
Until you go to pitch it. And that's, you're constantly doing that in MNCup. You're constantly pitching your business and having to share, what makes you unique and why should people care. And so you immediately, from day one, with the judging and just with these events, you're constantly getting people to push you, to answer questions differently, to include information that you're leaving out, to make you stronger. And it's tough love, but one great example is Elise Maxwell. She was our student division winner this last year. She's 5 feet and maybe a buckle 5, maybe. She's this really petite woman. She's very soft-spoken, but she has this great idea that she's moving forward. And to see her come in and be very reserved, to at the final awards event, like she won the audience favorite at the final awards event because she was a rock star. She got up and delivered and was really strong and compelling. And it really shows, I think, the value of of just having to work and rework how you talk about your business. And giving you a lot of confidence on the way, because while it's objective feedback, you're also getting like people that are big deals that are like, that's really cool what you're doing and I support it and I want to know how I can continue to help you. So the semifinalist stage, again, you have 80 companies, 10 in each division, that will get access to these events. They're going to get a packet of mentor bios. So we put together over 100 bios from just great people. Again, who it would cost a lot of money for you to pay to have them consult your business for some time. But they, provide their expertise. We have them share their alma mater because we understand that there is some connection with that. But companies get to go through and you're selecting your mentor, which is really great. So you're looking at your own gaps and weaknesses and saying, who can fill this over the next couple weeks while I'm developing my business plan and moving forward. The mentoring piece is by far one of the most, I think, most appreciated benefits from the Minnesota Cup for the companies. It's totally one of the things that doesn't get published and like talked about in like fancy magazines or anything. But the people, again, highly respected, just wanting to see your business improve through this process. So, as you're going to these events, as you're getting this mentoring, July 25th is the next deadline, and that's where you need to submit a 10-page business plan, a 15-slide investor presentation, and a 1-minute video. And that's a lot, especially for people who have day jobs still. But again, this timeline and this process is going to continue to push you to get you to a better place. And then in early August, judges come together again, mid-August, and they review and kind of go through the same process of looking at the opportunity, the plan, the progress, okay? And then they select 3 to advance from each division. So large pool of submissions down to 80, and then the next cut goes down to 28. So 3 in each, no, 24. I'm not a math teacher. Yeah. 24, okay? These 24 are going to get presentation training and coaching from a fantastic person. Her name is Joan Moser of Spoken Impact. If you have a large group of companies, like Jamie or the Bio Business Center wants to host her sometime, she's great about giving some really good, tangible pieces of information to help businesses give a better presentation, because it's so critical, especially if you're looking for investment, to give a good presentation. So these 24 teams get coaching, they go through a workshop, and then they have until August 30th or 31st to prep for their live pitch. So these 3 companies in each division will give a 12-minute presentation followed by a 12-minute Q&A session with the judges. It's closed to the public, so you can kind of dive into the weeds, get into the proprietary information, because all judges do sign an NDA. And it's a really great way, I think, to show the personality of your company, your goals, your ambitions, and seeing how your team operates. That day, the judges will deliberate and select a division winner. And so it's very American Idol. Everyone leaves the room, and you get invited back, and it's the winner. And as I said, that winner will get $30,000 and have the ability to go on to compete for the grand prize. The runner-up from the category will get $5,000. So it's not a winner takes all. Both the division winner and the runner-up will have the ability to pitch at our final awards event, which is on the 22nd to the audience. Just the division winners will pitch to a separate review board for the grand prize. So the schedule on September 22nd, it's like, in the afternoon, where we invite these companies, these 8 companies in, and they'll present to the grand prize review board, and then later that night we have a really big party. Last year's event was like 600 people. But again, it's the people that you want in the room. It's not just 600 more bodies, it's 600 of like really the greatest people within the entrepreneurial community who are sitting there. And you know, we do a little of the university, you know, song and dance, but it's really focused on the entrepreneurs. And the runners-up will give a 1-minute pitch to the audience, and the audience will vote on their favorite, and that company will get $1,000. And then we'll also do that for the division winners, where you know the audience will vote on their favorite company, and they will get $1,000. I've just confirmed our MC for the final awards event on September 22nd, and it's going to be Angie Bastion of Angie's Boom Chicka Pop. So Southern Minnesota is represented well, and I'm from Mankato also, so I like this area of the state. No, it's going to be a really fun evening, and even if you don't advance to the finalist stage or the division win stage, I'd encourage you to attend, because again, the networking is just fantastic. I can't emphasize that enough. And that's something that I'll make note of right now, because I kind of mentioned it, but MNCup is very inclusive and encouraging of companies. If you do not advance to the finalist stage, so if you advance to the semifinalist round, you're still getting access to all of the great things, like the real bread and butter of MNCup. If you don't advance to that next round, you're invited back the following year and another year, and however long you want to continue to pursue MNCup. I think the record is 4 or 5, and that company, so OrthoCore Medical, I think that there's some roots tied to Rochester maybe, but John Dennison, he applied, I think it was 4 times, and he like made to the semifinals round, then he made to the finals round, he like won the division, and then he, so it's cool to see the progression. And we've had some other companies that have applied, they make it to the semifinals round, they wait a couple of years, and then they come back again, and they win their division. This last year, Mark McNitt of Buffalo, he was in the energy and clean tech division. He applied in 2013, because I remember him. His company is called Stratitech. Really cool device where it's basically turning a generator into the size of like a soda pop bottle, really small and portable. But he applied in 2013, made it to the semifinals round, and came back in 2015 and won the division. He got it, he tried it on, he saw that it worked, it was valuable. He saw that he needed to do a couple more things before he could win, and he did it. And that's what we love to see, because I think it shows the value of the resource. It's not just for the winner. I mean, the winner gets a lot of great things, but there are so many other companies throughout this process that get amazing benefits, connections, resources.
Listen,
Yeah.
how many companies normally apply in total? 5, maybe 6?
Yeah.
Before you triage that down to 8%.
So we track a couple different numbers. We track total participation, like the number of people, because usually there's 2 to 3 people on a team, right? Most of you are probably with a team. If not, that's okay. But total participation is around, for 2015, it was around like 1,300 people. Total number of applications, so teams that participated, was around 515. Yep. And again, statewide, covering a lot of divisions. So I can tell you kind of our more popular divisions. General is always very high, because a lot of retail, consumer products, education. Following general, high tech is a very highly participated category. And then our social entrepreneurship division is also very high, which is cool to see. There's a lot of unique mission-driven businesses that apply to MNCup, which is cool. The 2 that are in the bottom actually are our life science and health IT division and our energy and clean tech division. And I think it's, this is my theory, it's that the path to market is a little more difficult than than retail or developing a new food concept. Not to say that food or retail isn't as strenuous. You just have a lot more regulations to in those other categories.
Are you
Yeah.
judged by judges that are specialists in that category, or are they like general judges?
No, so like the people within the life science and health IT division can get that, you know, you likely won't be in the consumer's hand for another 5 to 6 years, but they're looking at other milestones that you're hitting, you know, FDA approval or, I don't know, the variety of things like that with the challenges. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of response have you had historically from Rochester or this area?
Rochester, so we track by initiative regions. So Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation is a sponsor, and so we provide them with application information, and and we've done that for the last couple of years. Typically, Rochester has done very, very well. This last year, they were the highest. So in terms of like the region representation, so it was the best year, in the Cup history. And I think that is because we're developing some pretty great partnerships. So like Smith has been awesome about helping us get the word out. IBM is another sponsor. And so getting people involved from the region, because word of mouth is such a huge driver for this activity. A few of us find us through Google search or in an article. It's dumb luck, but a lot of it is people who have participated or know about that encourage others to apply and kind of get that endorsement to move forward. So really great participation. Would love to see it grow. It should grow. I mean, just when you look at the economic drivers for the region, food is really big. We could see more in food. Healthcare, another big one. We could definitely see more there. This last year, who knew advanced to the semifinalist round. They're from Rochester, and they actually won the AARP award. So in addition to these division winnings, so $30,000 for first place, we have several awards that will be added to the competition to incentivize certain types of companies to apply. So AARP was looking for the most innovative idea to improve the lives of business, or to improve the lives of seniors, and they selected Hunu. So Hunu got $5,000. And then this next year we're doing one with Carlson Companies. They're sponsoring an award for the top woman-led business. Talking with the American Heart Association about doing one, and then we also have an application in for regenerative medicine. So again, trying to find some cool ways to attract innovative ideas without having to create new divisions, but supplement with interesting awards that can be added on. So you could still win the division and receive, other prize money through these separate awards. I'll just quickly go over who some of our lead sponsors are, because I think it's interesting to the entrepreneurs to see who's in the room, because some of these institutions provide a number of judges to the divisions, but for a fantastic group, and we have very little fallout. So the number of sponsors that we have each year, I'm the sole paid employee in Minnesota Cup, which is pretty amazing. When we raise about $600,000 to $700,000 annually, and that's me hitting the pavement. And I can do that because we don't have a lot of people that say, no, I'm not interested this year. Because I think we continue to provide value, and it continues to grow and do some unique things. Regional partners, and I mentioned Smith, but we have some others that are from across the state. And then this is where I think it gets really exciting, because it's amazing. Like, again, these businesses that you know by name because they're brands or they're kind of icons within the state are participating in Minnesota Cup because they see the value and they want to support early stage entrepreneurs within Minnesota. And a lot of these organizations also provide judges to the competition. So, with that, that's my spiel about MNCup. I can stay as long as you'd like me to answer questions if you have. Yeah.
Sure. In the categories, the 8 categories,
Yeah.
do you have specific criteria for those? Okay, and what if you're cross-category?
That's a good question. So you are identifying the division that you want to enter. So what I recommend to people is to go on our website and look at who are the judges. Because depending on who you want to get in front of, that's who you should be, targeting and entering that specific category. And if you want to have a conversation to say, what does it look like within this division, or what are some of the things they're really looking for in this category? I will say that the social division has a little bit of a caveat, or addition to like the main criteria, and that's really understanding the social impact of what you're doing. You have to articulate, who you're targeting, how you're measuring it, things like that, if that's significant. But the other categories are, pretty broad, to be honest. Because like in life sciences, this last year, our top 3 companies, it was the pharmaceutical. Yep. So they had I used a gum to help trigger and stimulate weight loss.
In society.
And then Learn to Live, which is an online platform to help treat stress and anxiety. So cognitive behavioral health. And then the third one was POPS Diabetes Care. They're actually an interface and an add-on to your mobile devices to test your glucose. But really interesting stuff. So you have, kind of this health IT piece with diabetes care to something that's very much health IT, and then pharmaceutical. So, and it changes each year. We've had devices, we've had ones that are in orthopedics. Yeah, it's a great variety. Yeah.
You covered the $1 million cap. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Is there a point that you have to be so far along? I see on the website it's about inception, but truly inception is just a kernel of an idea, and if you can articulate it strong enough, you could still theoretically win. You don't have to see revenue, you don't have to see funding, you don't have to see...
I think, and what I can say is the teams that tend to advance in the competition usually have made a little progress because they validated the idea. The market has, is asking for it, investors are supporting it, customers. You don't have to, because some of the companies have been very early, like Stratitech. He's just starting to approach, I think, a finished prototype. And so it's pretty early, but he has an amazing team of people, and he has backers. He himself is like a rocket scientist, but he has incredible knowledge and experience. Other questions?
Nothing really prevents mentors or judges from getting involved in ideas that they see to completion, correct?
Yes.
Or even providing funding.
So that's
Has there been instances where
Yeah.
that's worked?
So, yes, we've actually had multiple judges and mentors invest in companies afterwards. Camp Native was in the high-tech category, and they just got some investment, and that was led by one of the judges. And then on the mentoring side, it's really cool because we've had mentors that have actually been hired by the companies because they are so excited about what they're doing. So Dipinder Singh of 75F, based out of Mankato, he won the competition in 2014. He has a really cool energy savings device. We would probably work in this building. These target small and medium-sized buildings. But his mentor, Bob French, he hired him, and Bob French now leads up his sales team, which is pretty dang cool. We've had others that have come on board as advisors, official advisors, served on the board. We had one that became the CEO of the company, and so there isn't a firewall for engagement. We just encourage judges to make conflicts known. So so that people understand the lens that you're viewing activity from.
Can you explain that $1 million revenue?
Yeah.
Better? It's-
Yeah, so, and it's historical revenue, so we're looking at, 2015, so, and it's annually. So if you exceeded $1 million in sales in 2015, you can not participate.
and like,
It's
is that one
not-
company or that one idea? Or,
Yeah, so are you looking at like,
say if you have multiple companies and they exceed $1 million with this one idea.
you have to have an entity that can, that stands alone, so if you do have that, like if you have like an umbrella and then you have multiple things underneath it, if that's like what you're referring to, like if you have a holding company or something.
Well, okay, I get what you're saying.
But you can't, you have to be able to say, like, if this group of companies or ideas, they've exceeded $1 million collectively, you need to be able to show that this is an independent entity from that. Because we don't want necessarily the people that have the resources or are far enough along that are just looking to, use the exposure. We want, real startups. That don't have that revenue. But, I mean, you can make the case for certain, organizations, like through our social division this last year, Appetite for Change is like the nonprofit that oversees the activity of the other projects and programs that are going on. Breaking Bread is one of those projects. Breaking Bread applied to the Minnesota Cup. Breaking Bread does not have, it did not exceed $1 million in revenue, but they were able to differentiate and say, like, we're just supplying you with information from Breaking Bread. We're not talking about Appetite for Change. We're completely separate. We're talking about it. It's a restaurant that serves predominantly, the North Minneapolis community, where there's a lot of fast food establishments, and they were looking at providing more healthy, natural products, meals, etc. And they were also doing some really cool things on youth and developing, lifelong skills for at-risk youth. But they were able to say, we're just providing the numbers and the revenue for Breaking Bread. They were able to in a sense, like build that firewall from Appetite for Change. I know that's confusing, but
No, I got it.
other questions? Our website has a lot of information. We're pretty active on Twitter, a little bit on Facebook, LinkedIn. But Twitter is I think kind of our main kind of communication stream. And then our website it's updated with key dates. Again, application round starts March 21st and closes on May 6th. May 6th is the important date. But I think, if you're curious about it, check it out. We've had, Lee Jones is a really great example. Lee Jones of Rebiotics. Are you guys familiar with that company, Rebiotics? It's interesting. It's actually doing, I don't know what the technical term is, but it's like fecal implants into the intestines to help improve the bacteria and your digestion. Rebiotics participated in MNCup. Lee Jones, serial entrepreneur, worked at large companies, at small companies. I mean, she has a ton of great experience. She went through the process just to refamiliarize herself and connect with people that maybe she didn't know in the community. She's had an awesome run. She didn't win her division. She took second to Marie Johnson's AUM cardiovascular device, another cool one to check out. But what she did was, after the Minnesota Cup, she raised close to $30 million. And she talked about this process being just one that, again, it focuses you in and it gets you to know your business so well, because you're constantly being peppered with questions and you're having to articulate in a different way for different audiences. And I think that's another good one, because within the judging pool, while you have some people that are real experts and have the technical expertise, you have people in there that don't have the technical expertise. So you have to be able to describe what you're doing and why it's so great in a way that everybody can understand. understand it. And I think that that can be challenging sometimes. I worked for an engineer for many years, so I get that struggle. So, other important things to know. Yeah, I can't stress enough that as much as you put into it, you'll get out of it, 2x.
Do you have any suggestions, Melissa, about how we might in Rochester, it's great of you to come down and take this time, but how might we do even more sort of promoting and
Yeah.
encouraging scenarios?
So I think it's challenging to find entrepreneurs because most people are, if they're not, in facilities like this, or if they're not a serial entrepreneur, they're kind of in isolation. And I think one of the ways to break that is to provide interesting meetups, and Jamie's doing that with BioAM. But there's other, ones that are not in the bio, business space, like food or retail or student or whatever. But I think providing, a way for people to connect with each other and developing these peer relationships, because that makes entrepreneurs motivated in a different way, where they have, a relationship with a few other entrepreneurs and they get it, like their family doesn't get it, but these people get it of why they're so excited about this. And then I think just like this constant kind of education and awareness building, because some people know a lot about entrepreneurship because they ran a business unit for 2 decades or something like that. But other people just have an idea and they're like, where the heck do I even begin? And so I think, figuring out how you want to, foster and cultivate different stages of entrepreneurs. I went to Boulder, Colorado in May of this last year. And the way Naturally Boulder, they're a big food association over there. But the way they talk about their entrepreneurial community is by classes. So they say freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Because it allows you to say, all right, so the people that are like under 5 million, I'm gonna call them freshmen, and then 5, and again, this is based on food. This isn't based on medical devices, because that would be a whole different thing. And so I think giving, yes, again, a chance to meet up, get some education, not feel alone, and just having an entry point to start engaging with this. I think that Minnesota does really well with creating these resources all over the place, but the resources don't always talk to each other really well. And so, there's been a lot of initiative in kind of the greater MSP area to develop a portal where you can access everything. And that has its own challenges, but I think it's just, people knowing about each other and what's going on and being willing to share and not feeling competitive about it. Because if an entrepreneur succeeds, the whole community succeeds. You can take credit for it, they can take credit for it. The entrepreneur will say, no, you can't take credit for it. But I think that the meetups are important and the education is
You guys are by far the best, but are there other competitions within the state that you're aware of? For instance, who's your competition?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think my competition, MNCup's competition is kind of people feeling not the need to do it and convincing them that they should. Kind of just this passiveness towards the idea. But Clean Tech Open is another program. They're organized by regions, and so there's a Midwest region and they're a national program. And we actually have done some really cool things in the past where we're not viewed as competitive, but if you apply to Clean Tech Open, you get, or Clean Tech Open, it costs money to apply to. So if you apply to Minnesota Cup, and if you advance to the semifinals round, you get free admittance into Clean Tech Open. So we try to do some cool, creative things that way. And we found that the people that do the competition simultaneously do very well in both, because it's just this immersive experience in their business. But in terms of a state program like this, it's pretty unique, and they're trying to do this in other states. But I think Minnesota is so unique because of the 10 pillars that we have here, and that's what makes this so cool, is that you have these really large companies that are supporting innovation, and then you have these great entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, investors, you know, that are engaging in this activity as well. Anything else to note on that? Yeah, the competition is just a lack of awareness, maybe an enthusiasm for it. Yeah. Do it. If you're thinking about it, do it. I can't express it enough. And it will be fun. It'll be really fun. And yeah, it's just so cool to see the creativity that comes to life, and like, you know, that excitement, you know, it's just this energy, it's this buzz, because you have 80 teams that are, you know, doing some really cool stuff at kind of the key point of the Minnesota Cup. And it's, you know, it's not necessarily this competitive culture, because I feel like teams feel like they're more competing against themselves. All of a sudden, this community and this collaborative environment shapes. And so, like, people are like cheering each other on in the division. It's like, why are you, don't you want to win? Well, yeah, but I want you to do really well too. And so the relationships, I think, kind of going back to that pure relationship, it becomes really strong and really exciting to see take shape.
Melissa,
Yeah.
what are companies telling you in terms of how big of a tight commitment it is to be part of the MNCup, and whether or not that's compatible with a part-time entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Someone that has a full-time job and doing that.
We try to make any of the outside events in the mornings, at lunch, or in the evenings. And we also push to try and do things online to make it more accessible. Yeah, to make it more accessible. So streaming and things like that, we push our hosts of these events to do that. You know, it is a time commitment, and we had a Bacchus, Minnesota. Are you familiar with where Bacchus is? It's like north of, Brainerd, South PNG, kind of. It's a ways up there. Gentra Tools, so Travis Kelly and his wife participated in the MNCup a couple years ago, and Gentra Tools is really cool. And it's so like, it's just so simple, but it's like such a great idea. They have a leveler or a level, you know, the ones that, to go on the top of a door and a side of a door for install. Because if you've ever installed a door, I guess it's a pain in the ass. I've not, but this is what Travis tells me. And so he came up with a patented device where, you know, you just clamp these things on and you can install a door pretty slick. You know, for me, it's not that big of a deal, but for people who are installing hundreds of doors a year, it's a big deal. So he was like, you know what, I'm gonna commit and do this, and he came down to every single event. He took second, so he didn't win his division, but he says constantly when he talks amongst, you know, other entrepreneurs, and when we've invited him in to speak, and maybe it's because, you know, he's speaking at our events that he's saying these nice things, but, you know, yeah, he was in the car sometimes 6 hours a day, you know, driving after his day job. But his mentor was amazing, the events were amazing, the people that he got to meet. And again, I think it's just this rush and enthusiasm for your business. It reinvigorates you to keep going when you have people outside of, you know, your network saying this is really cool. And I think that's another thing to, you know, as we're sitting here talking, that came to mind. You know, the accelerator model, you know, with like Techstars, and there's some others around the state. It's really, those are awesome programs, and we want to be able to feed into those programs. And so we model MNCup almost like a pre-accelerator. There's no like relocation that you have to do, but it's intense. And that's, you know, accelerator programs are really intense, but it's all in the name of like your business. We don't take any equity. We don't ask that you report on how you spend your winnings. So I think it's this really cool way of awarding people for doing great things. Again, just giving them energy and resources to keep going. Yeah, Randy.
I just want to comment, last year I was judged for the first time in the program. I have some business background, and I didn't know what to expect. And one thing that I didn't realize is how much I'd learned just from the judging activity and the quality of the judges that were in there. In fact, like the founders of the Minnesota Cup participated, and also the value that would just come out of it. You could just realize the things that the startups were learning from it. And it's kind of, every one that comes in is at a different point in their development. And it was amazing to see how quickly some of them grew from the very beginning when you first actually meet them, and that was at the second round, till the end, of how quickly they accelerated during that period, and being able to really demonstrate what their value is, but also kind of reorient what they're focusing on. A lot of them realized they're focusing on the wrong thing, and were able to kind of refocus and increase the value of what they're doing.
Yep. Yes. And I think, you know, again, to the resources and the connections that you're making, the constant little tweaks and pivots that you're doing along the way based on that feedback, and it's in a really safe space to exercise those things, where people are going to give you critical feedback, but they're also going to, you know, to praise you and give you a high five for doing something.
So you're housed at the Carlson School
Yeah.
of Management.
Yeah.
Are any of the grad students involved in the business plan development, working with the applicants?
Not to date. We have a dream of being able to have a pool of funds that will support that, because it would be really cool to get a team of students with, you know, each semifinalist.
So the Carlson, I was involved in the business plan competition at the Carlson School back in 2000, and you know, that competition and all that was a lot of fun. It was very rewarding.
Yeah.
But you were able to work with, as part of the project, you know, for the grad student. Is that no longer a requirement, or you don't know?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, it's no longer a requirement.
Yeah.
So MNCup hijacked the student business plan competition.
okay.
So Dave Cleveland, if you
Yes.
know, yep. So we took that endowment for MNCup with
Got
his
it.
blessing
Got
and
it.
took it outside the school to.
Yeah. Well, it's very
Um,
rewarding.
But there are some really cool benefits specifically for the Life Science and Health IT division. MILI, which is the Medical Industry Leadership Institute at the Carlson School, they do projects. And so specifically within, you know, that category, and if there's some others in different divisions, then this will make more sense, you know, if you advance to the semifinalist stage of the program. But they offer these free kind of, like, they call them audits, I think.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and so it's like an assessment of, you know, where you're at, and it's a report that you get back done by the students.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
And they present it.
Yep, and so we do have that, as a part of MNCup, because we work closely with Millie. But for the other divisions, they don't have that benefit, unfortunately.
So you can be 18 or younger,
For the youth category.
or?
Yep. You know, I'm happy to, again, stick around and answer one-on-one questions. I brought a stack of business cards. If you go to our website and, you know, contact us, that comes to me. So if you lose a business card or, you know, take one today, that's okay. But no, again, I think we need more representation from the Rochester community, and, you know, a win from the region would be really cool. So I encourage you to apply. Again, you can keep coming back. So if you don't win, and if you don't advance past the semifinalist round, hopefully we'll see you again.